I found her secret phone with 18 months of messages to her tennis instructor. After 29 years of marriage, I didn't confront her. I didn't rage. I simply vanished. No goodbye, no note. Just gone. For months, I built a new life where she couldn't find me. Then an envelope arrived with her handwriting. She tracked me down. Now I had a choice to make. My name is Warren Harris. I'm 52, and until last year, I was a financial consultant with Henderson and Blake in Chicago. We helped wealthy clients grow their assets, navigate tax laws, and plan for retirement. For 27 years, I built a career on being the guy who sees potential disasters before they happen. Ironic, isn't it? I couldn't see the disaster unfolding in my own home. Jennifer and I married young, both 23 and full of dreams. Our daughter Emma came along 2 years later. We built what I thought was the perfect life. The Tudor-style house in Oak Park, the summer vacations to Maine, Emma's graduation from Northwestern. I worked long hours, but it was all for us, for our future. At least, that's what I told myself. The problem started around our 25th anniversary. I just landed the Bishop account, a family worth north of $50 million who needed complete portfolio restructuring. For 3 months, I practically lived at the office. When I missed Emma's 27th birthday dinner because of a last-minute client emergency, Jennifer didn't even seem angry. She just looked at me with this hollow expression and said, "I expected nothing less." I tried to make it up to them. A surprise weekend in New York for Jennifer. An expensive watch for Emma. But gifts aren't the same as presents, and deep down I knew it. Still, I kept telling myself I'd make more time for family after the Bishop project wrapped up. Then after the Henderson promotion. Then after tax season. Meanwhile, Jennifer joined a book club, took up tennis, started volunteering at the art museum. Good things, healthy things. I was happy she had interests outside our marriage. I never thought to ask why she suddenly needed so many activities away from home. Last April, I came home early for once. I'd closed a major deal and wanted to surprise Jennifer with dinner reservations at Alinea, that 3-star Michelin place she'd been mentioning for years. The house was empty, but her car was in the garage. I called out her name, checked the backyard, then our bedroom. Her closet door was slightly ajar. Inside, on the shelf where she kept her winter scarves, I spotted a phone I'd never seen before. It wasn't locked. The text messages went back 18 months. His name was Richard. He was her tennis instructor. The latest message had been sent that morning. "Can't wait to feel your hands on me again." Last night was incredible. I stood there, staring at that little screen, feeling like I'd been shot. 29 years of marriage. 29 years of what I thought was building something unbreakable. And in that moment, everything I thought I knew about my life shattered like glass. I didn't confront Jennifer immediately. Something inside me just shut down. I slipped the phone back exactly where I'd found it, walked downstairs, and sat in my car in the garage for nearly an hour. When she finally came home, carrying grocery bags and humming to herself, I helped unpack like nothing was wrong. "You're home early," Jennifer said, surprise evident in her voice. "Closed the Wilkerson deal ahead of schedule," I replied, keeping my voice steady while placing cans in the pantry. "That's great," she responded with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm making salmon for dinner." We ate across from each other at our kitchen island, the same way we had thousands of times before. She talked about her day at the museum, mentioned a new exhibit coming in June. I nodded, asked appropriate questions, all while wondering if she'd been with him before coming home. After dinner, I told her I needed to take a drive to clear my head about a work issue. She barely looked up from loading the dishwasher. "Don't stay out too late," Jennifer said casually, as if she cared about my schedule. I drove aimlessly through our neighborhood, past the elementary school where Emma once played soccer, past the park where I taught her to ride a bike. 29 years of memories on every corner. I ended up at Lake Michigan, watching waves crash against the shore in the darkness. My phone vibrated. A text from Jennifer asking when I'd be home. The irony wasn't lost on me. That's when it hit me, clear as the stars above the lake. I needed to disappear. Not dramatically, not vengefully. Just go. I couldn't bear to hear her excuses or watch her cry crocodile tears. I couldn't stomach the thought of couples therapy, where we'd pretend this was something we could fix. I disappeared after her affair. I never planned to return, until she tracked me down months later. But that night, sitting in my car with the lake stretching before me, I had no idea she would ever find me. I wasn't even sure I wanted to be found. I drove to an ATM and withdrew $3,000, the maximum daily limit. Then I checked into a roadside motel outside the city using cash. The room smelled like cheap detergent and old cigarettes, but it was clean enough. I sat on the edge of the bed and called Emma. "Dad," she answered, sounding surprised. "Everything okay? It's pretty late." "Everything's fine, sweetheart." I lied, trying to keep my voice normal. "Listen, I might be out of touch for a few days. Work project. Don't worry if you can't reach me." "That's weird timing," Emma said. "Mom just texted asking if I'd heard from you." "I'll call her," I assured her. "Just wanted to say I love you." "Love you too, Dad," she replied, confusion evident in her voice. I turned off my phone after that. I couldn't face Jennifer's calls or messages. Not yet. Maybe not ever. That night, I barely slept. I kept seeing those messages, imagining them together. By dawn, I made my decision. I wasn't going back. A man can only take so much betrayal before something fundamental breaks inside him. I would start over somewhere new, somewhere she wouldn't find me. I had disappeared, and at that moment, I never planned to return. By morning, I had a plan. I need a new identity, not legally, but practically. Somewhere Jennifer wouldn't think to look. I drove back to Chicago, parked in a public garage downtown, and walked to my bank. I withdrew another $5,000 from our joint account and closed my personal account entirely, transferring the funds to a new account at a different bank. Then I went to our safe deposit box and removed my passport, birth certificate, and the gold coins my father had left me. "Going somewhere special, Mr. Harris?" the bank manager asked with a smile. "Just getting my affairs in order," I replied, forcing a smile in return. Next, I visited my lawyer, Arthur Simmons, a man I trusted for decades. "Warren, you look terrible," Arthur said as I entered his office. "What's happened?" "Jennifer's been having an affair," I stated flatly. "I'm leaving." Arthur's face fell. "I'm sorry. Have you confronted her?" "No," I said firmly. "And I'm not going to. I need your help, Arthur." Complete discretion. I explained my plan to disappear for a while. Arthur listened without judgment, then nodded solemnly. "I'll handle everything on this end," Arthur promised. "But Warren, your daughter, I'll contact Emma when I'm settled," I assured him. "She shouldn't be dragged into this mess." "And Jennifer?" Arthur asked carefully. "Tell her nothing," I replied. "If she wants a divorce, have her file the papers. I'll sign whatever's needed." I left Arthur my power of attorney and instructions to manage my assets. He agreed to forward any critical mail to a P.O. box I'd set up. That afternoon, I checked into another hotel under a false name and bought a prepaid phone. I called Emma one more time. "Dad, Mom's worried sick," Emma said immediately. "What's going on?" "I know about Richard," I said quietly. Silence hung between us for several seconds. "You know," Emma finally whispered. "How long have you known?" "Just found out yesterday," I answered. "You knew?" "For about a month," Emma admitted, her voice cracking. "I saw them together at a restaurant. Mom said it was just a friendship, but I'm not stupid. I need time away," I explained. "I'll call when I can." "Are you okay?" Emma asked, concern evident in her voice. "No," I answered honestly, "but I will be." After hanging up, I sat on the edge of the hotel bed and felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. The decision was made. No more pretending. No more trying to salvage something that was already broken beyond repair. The next morning, I boarded a Greyhound bus headed west. As the Chicago skyline faded in the distance, I didn't look back. 29 years of memory stayed behind as I moved forward into whatever came next. 3 days and 4 bus transfers later, I arrived in Portland, Oregon. I'd chosen it randomly, a place Jennifer and I had never visited, with a climate opposite of Chicago's. The constant drizzle matched my mood as I checked into a modest extended-stay hotel. For 2 weeks, I barely left my room except for necessities. I grew a beard, something Jennifer had always disliked. I bought clothes at thrift stores, flannel shirts and work boots that my financial consultant self would never have worn. I became someone else. When I finally emerged from my cocoon of grief, I began exploring the city. One rainy afternoon, I wandered into the Portland Botanical Garden. The lush greenery and quiet pathways soothed something in me that had been jagged and raw. "First time here," An older gentleman asked, noticing me studying a Japanese maple. First time anywhere in a long time, I replied honestly. The man introduced himself as Harold Thornton. He and his wife Eleanor owned a sprawling estate outside the city and were looking for a gardener. Do you know anything about plants? Harold asked. Only that they don't lie or cheat. I answered with more bitterness than I'd intended. Harold chuckled. Fair enough. Ever worked with your hands? Not professionally, I admitted. Professional experience is overrated, Harold said. I need someone who appreciates beauty and isn't afraid of hard work. The cottage on our property comes with the job. I'm not a charity case, I said firmly. Good, because I'm not offering charity, Harold countered. I'm offering fair pay for honest work. Think about it. He handed me a card with an address and phone number, then continued his stroll through the garden. That night, I called a number. A week later, I moved into the gardener's cottage on the Thornton estate, a stone structure with weathered wooden beams and windows that faced east to catch the morning sun. My financial expertise had meant nothing here, but as I learned to prune roses and nurture seedlings, I found a different kind of satisfaction, immediate, tangible results from my labor. No clients, no deadlines, no betrayals, just soil and growth and weather. For the first time in months, I slept without dreams. 6 months passed in a rhythm of seasons. Summer turned to fall, painting the Thornton estate in fiery reds and golds. I learned the language of plants, which ones thrived in shade, which needed constant attention, which were hardy enough to survive neglect. Sometimes I saw parallels to human relationships that I tried not to dwell on. Harold and Eleanor became unexpected friends. They respected my privacy, but included me in occasional dinners where conversation flowed easily about everything except my past. They never pried, and I appreciated that more than they knew. One crisp October morning, I drove into town for supplies. The local post office had become part of my routine. Arthur forwarded anything important to my P.O. box there. Usually, it contained only financial statements or brief updates about my former life. But that day, a thick cream-colored envelope waited among the usual mail. My name was written in Jennifer's unmistakable handwriting. No return address. I stared at it for so long that the postal clerk asked if everything was all right. Fine, I muttered, tucking the envelope into my jacket pocket without opening it. I completed my errands mechanically, the envelope burning against my chest like a hot coal. Back at the cottage, I placed it on the kitchen table and went to work in the garden, aggressively pruning back roses as if I could cut away my thoughts as easily. By sunset, I was exhausted but calmer. I showered, made a simple dinner, and poured a glass of whiskey. Only then did I open the envelope. Inside was a 10-page letter in Jennifer's handwriting. The first line stopped me cold. I've found you, Warren, after months of searching. She'd hired a private investigator who had tracked me through my new bank account. Jennifer detailed her shock at my disappearance, her confusion when Arthur refused to reveal my whereabouts, her eventual realization that I must have discovered her affair with Richard. What you don't know, she wrote, is that it ended months ago. It was never anything real, just a pathetic attempt to feel something again. I took a long swallow of whiskey, my hand steady despite the turmoil inside. She wrote about how Emma had finally confronted her, how her daughter hadn't spoken to her for weeks afterward, how her friends had gradually stopped inviting her places, how the big house felt like a mausoleum of her former life. The last paragraph hit hardest. I don't expect forgiveness, Warren. I don't even expect a response. But I need to see you one last time, to say goodbye properly, to tell you these things face to face. I'll be at the Riverside Hotel in Portland next Tuesday, room 412. If you don't come, I'll understand, and you'll never hear from me again. I folded the letter carefully and returned it to its envelope. Then I walked outside and stood under the stars, breathing deeply of the cool night air. She had found me. After all these months of silence and rebuilding, Jennifer had tracked me down. The question wasn't whether I would go. The question was, what kind of man would I be when I faced her? I didn't tell Harold and Eleanor about Jennifer's letter, but Eleanor, with her uncanny perception, sensed something had changed. The hydrangeas looked neglected, she remarked casually as we strolled through the garden. And so do you. Just distracted, I admitted. Distraction is the mind's way of processing what the heart isn't ready to face, Eleanor said. When I didn't respond, she added, "Whatever it is, Warren, remember that strength isn't about never falling. It's about how you stand up again." I nodded gratefully, unable to form words around the tightness in my throat. The weekend passed in a blur of garden work and internal debate. By Tuesday morning, I made my decision. I told Harold I needed the day off for personal business. "Take all the time you need," Harold said, clasping my shoulder firmly. "The garden will wait." I drove to downtown Portland with the windows down, letting the crisp autumn air clear my head. The Riverside Hotel was a modern glass structure overlooking the Willamette River. I parked in the public garage and sat in my truck for nearly 20 minutes, gathering courage. At exactly noon, I knocked on room 412. The door opened immediately. Jennifer stood there, different from my memories. Thinner, with streaks of gray in her hair she'd previously colored. Her eyes widened at the sight of my beard and weathered appearance. "Warren," she whispered, stepping back to let me enter. The room was standard hotel fare: king bed, desk, 2 armchairs by the window. Her suitcase stood neatly in the corner, her familiar perfume hanging faintly in the air. "You look," Jennifer began, "different." I finished for her. "So do you." An awkward silence filled the space between us. "Thank you for coming," she finally said, gesturing to the armchairs. "I wasn't sure you would." I sat down, keeping my back straight, hands resting on my knees. "Your letter didn't give me much choice." "I'm sorry," Jennifer said quickly. "Not just for finding you, for everything." "Why did you look for me?" I asked, cutting to the heart of it. We both know our marriage was over the moment I saw those messages. Jennifer's composure cracked slightly. "Because you disappeared without a word. Because after 29 years, I deserved at least a goodbye. And I deserved faithfulness." I countered, my voice remarkably calm. "We don't always get what we deserve." She flinched as if I'd struck her. "You're right," she said softly. "I just needed to explain." "You explained in your letter." I interrupted. "Richard was a distraction. You were bored. Lonely. I wasn't there enough. I've heard it all before, Jennifer, just not about us." Tears filled her eyes. "Is that what you think? That I'm making excuses?" "Aren't you?" I asked. "No," she answered firmly. "I'm taking responsibility. What I did was unforgivable. I destroyed something precious because I was weak and selfish." Her raw honesty caught me off guard. This wasn't the conversation I'd rehearsed in my head. "I'm not here for apologies," I said, watching Jennifer carefully. "I'm here because running away solved nothing. We need closure." Jennifer nodded, visibly gathering her composure. "Emma refuses to speak to me," she said softly. "She said she'll never forgive me for driving you away." "I'll talk to her," I replied. "She shouldn't blame you for my decisions." "That's generous of you," Jennifer said, surprise evident in her voice. "It's not generosity," I corrected her. "It's truth. You made your choices. I made mine." A heavy silence settled between us. 29 years of shared history, reduced to awkward pauses and careful words. "Are you happy here?" Jennifer finally asked. "Working as a gardener." The question might have seemed condescending from anyone else, but her tone held genuine curiosity. "I am," I answered honestly. "There's something honest about watching things grow because of your effort. No office politics. No client demands. Just soil and plants and weather." "And the Thorntons?" she asked. "Arthur mentioned them when my investigator finally got him to talk." "Good people," I said simply. "They gave me space when I needed it most." Jennifer nodded, then reached for her purse and withdrew a large envelope. "I've had divorce papers drawn up," she said, placing them on the coffee table between us. "Everything's split equally. The house is already on the market." I stared at the envelope, emotions churning beneath my calm exterior. The official end of nearly 3 decades together, reduced to legal documents and signatures. "You're not contesting anything?" I asked. "Why would I?" Jennifer replied. "I'm the one who broke our vows, Warren. I won't compound that by fighting over assets." Her accountability surprised me again. This wasn't the defensive reaction I'd expected. "There's one more thing," Jennifer said, pulling out a smaller envelope. "Emma's getting married in June. Despite everything, she wants you to walk her down the aisle." My throat tightened. "She's engaged? To whom?" "Christopher Matthews. They've been dating for about a year. You'd like him. He's an architect, steady, treats her well." The realization that I'd missed my daughter's relationship struck me hard. Life had continued without me. You should be there too, I said after a moment. Whatever's happened between us, she needs her mother. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. I've tried to tell her that. Maybe she'll listen to you. I nodded, making a mental note to call Emma soon. Some bridges couldn't be burned, no matter how painful crossing them might be. As our conversation wound down, I found myself studying Jennifer's face, the familiar lines around her eyes, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when uncertain. Once I'd loved those details. Now, they belonged to a chapter of my life that was closing. I should go, I said, standing and gathering the envelope of divorce papers. Jennifer rose as well, maintaining careful distance. I'm sorry, Warren. Not just for the affair, but for taking so long to become the person who could admit it was entirely my fault. I nodded once, acknowledging her words without offering forgiveness that wasn't mine to give yet. As I turned to leave, I paused at the door. Be well, Jennifer, I said quietly, the most genuine sentiment I could offer. Spring arrived at the Thornton estate in a riot of color. Tulips and daffodils I planted the previous fall, pushing through soil toward sunlight. I found a metaphor in their persistence that wasn't lost on me. True to my word, I called Emma the day after meeting Jennifer. We talked for nearly 2 hours about her engagement, her work at the environmental law firm, and finally, about her mother. She destroyed everything, Emma said, anger evident in her voice. No, she damaged our marriage, I corrected gently. But you're not collateral damage, Emma. Don't sacrifice your relationship with your mother because of what happened between us. How can you be so calm about this? Emma demanded. Because holding on to anger was killing me, I admitted. I left to find peace, not to punish her. After some persuasion, Emma agreed to call her mother. It wasn't forgiveness yet, but it was a start. 2 weeks later, Harold found me pruning the rose garden. Eleanor's birthday dinner is tonight, he reminded me. We're expecting you at 7, and we have another guest I'd like you to meet. I'd almost forgotten. I'll be there, I promised. That evening, I showered and changed into the one decent outfit I owned, khakis and a blue button-down shirt Jennifer had bought me years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me as I walked up to the main house, a bottle of Eleanor's favorite wine in hand. The Thorntons' home was a gracious Victorian with wraparound porches and large windows illuminated warmly against the gathering dusk. Eleanor greeted me with her customary warmth. Warren, you clean up nicely, she said with a smile. Come meet our guest. In the living room, a woman stood examining the bookshelves, tall, with silver-streaked dark hair, twisted into a simple knot. She turned as we entered, revealing intelligent eyes and an easy smile. She wore a simple black dress that spoke of elegance rather than ostentation. Warren, this is Grace Winters, Eleanor said. My niece from Seattle. Grace, this is Warren Harris, the miracle worker who saved my gardens. Pleasure to meet you, Grace said, extending her hand. Her handshake was firm, her gaze direct. Likewise, I replied, feeling unexpectedly self-conscious. Over dinner, I learned that Grace was a retired judge now teaching law at the University of Washington. She had never married, choosing career over family, a decision she spoke about without apology or regret. Her dry humor and straightforward manner drew me, and despite my reservations. After dessert, Harold suggested brandy on the porch. Eleanor begged off, claiming fatigue, and Harold mysteriously remembered a phone call he needed to make, leaving Grace and me alone with our snifters. They're not exactly subtle, Grace observed with amusement. No, I agreed. Eleanor's been hinting for months that I need more company than plants. And do you? Grace asked directly. I consider the question honestly. I'm not sure. My divorce isn't even final yet. I'm not proposing, Warren, Grace said with a smile that reached her eyes. Just conversation under the stars. We can start there. Her frankness startled a laugh from me, the first genuine one in longer than I could remember. Over the next months, Grace and I developed a friendship that progressed with deliberate slowness. We met for coffee, then dinner, then long walks through the gardens I maintained. She never pushed for more than I was ready to give, and I appreciated her patience. The divorce became final in April. Jennifer and I signed the last papers in Arthur's office, the proceedings amicable and subdued. As we left, she touched my arm briefly. I saw Emma last week, Jennifer said. She's giving me another chance. I'm glad. I replied sincerely. She needs her mother. She needs you too, Jennifer answered. We all did. I just realized it too late. I nodded, acknowledging her words without reopening old wounds. Take care, Jennifer. You too, Warren, she said softly before walking to her waiting car. I stood on the sidewalk watching her drive away, feeling a curious lightness. The anger that had once consumed me had faded into something gentler. Not forgiveness exactly, but acceptance. We had both made choices that led us here, and now we could move forward separately. That evening, I invited Grace to dinner at the cottage. It was the first time I'd asked her into my private space, and the significance wasn't lost on either of us. You seem different today, Grace observed as we sat on the porch after dinner, watching the sunset paint the gardens in gold. The divorce is final, I told her. Close that chapter officially. Grace nodded thoughtfully. How does it feel? Like setting down a heavy weight I've been carrying, I admitted. Not entirely comfortable yet. My muscles are still tense from the effort, but relieving. Poetic for a gardener, Grace said with a small smile. Plants teach you about cycles, I replied. Endings and beginnings. Death and renewal. Grace's hand found mine in the gathering dusk. Her palm was warm and slightly calloused, the hand of someone who did real work despite her professional background. I'm not looking to replace what you lost, she said directly. That wouldn't be fair to either of us. I know, I answered. That's what I respect about you. You're not trying to fill someone else's space. You're creating your own. The kiss that followed was gentle, questioning, undemanding. When we pulled apart, Grace's eyes held mine with characteristic directness. I don't need promises, she said. Just honesty. Whatever happens between us, can you offer that? Yes, I replied without hesitation. That I can promise. Later, walking back to her car, Grace turned to survey the cottage and gardens silvered by moonlight. You've built something beautiful here, Warren. Looking at the transformation around me, the ordered beds, the thriving plants, the peaceful cottage, I realized she was right. From the ashes of my old life, I had indeed created something worth protecting. Thank you, I said, meaning it on multiple levels, for seeing that. As her taillights disappeared down the driveway, I stood in the quiet garden, listening to the night's sounds and feeling, for the first time in longer than I could remember, genuinely hopeful about tomorrow. June arrived with perfect weather for Emma's wedding day. I stood in the church anteroom, adjusting my tie, emotions churning beneath my calm exterior. In moments, I would walk my daughter down the aisle, a role I'd once feared I might never perform. The door opened, and Emma entered in her wedding gown, radiant and poised. She stopped eyes wide. Dad, she said softly, you look so handsome, and you're beautiful. I replied, voice rough with emotion. Your mother will be proud. Emma's smile faltered slightly. Is it weird, having you both here after everything? No, I assured her. Today isn't about us. It's about you and Christopher and your future. I offered my arm, and she took it, squeezing gratefully. I'm so glad you came back, she whispered. When you disappeared after Mom's affair, I was terrified we'd lost you forever. Never, I promised. I needed time away, but you're my daughter. Nothing changes that. The ceremony passed in a blur of music and vows and flowers. Jennifer sat in the front row, eyes bright with tears. We exchanged civil nods, but kept a respectful distance. The weight of our history remained, but it no longer threatened to overwhelm the present. At the reception, I danced with Emma, cherishing the moment. As the song ended, she kissed my cheek and whispered, I invited Grace. Hope that's okay. Before I could respond, Emma was whisked away by her new husband. Turning, I saw Grace at the edge of the dance floor in a simple blue dress, looking slightly uncertain, a rare expression for her. You came, I said, approaching her. Your daughter called me personally, Grace replied with a small smile. Quite persuasive, that one. Takes after her father, I quipped, offering my hand. Dance with me. As we moved across the floor, I caught Jennifer watching us. She raised her champagne glass in a small salute, and after a moment's hesitation, I nodded in acknowledgement. Some wounds would never fully heal, but they no longer needed to define us. After the reception, Grace and I walked through the hotel gardens, my hand comfortable in hers. Emma invited me to Thanksgiving. Grace mentioned casually. Too soon. No, I replied after considering it honestly. It feels right. Grace stopped, turning to face me. Warren, I need to ask you something. Are you still running from your past? Or are you ready to build a future? The directness of her question, so characteristically Grace, demanded equal honesty. When I disappeared after discovering the affair, I never planned to return to my old life, I said slowly. Even when Jennifer tracked me down, I resisted reconnecting with that past. But now I see it differently. I'm not running anymore. I'm choosing, every day, to move forward. Grace's smile was worth every difficult step of the journey. That's all I needed to hear, she said. Later that night, watching Emma and Christopher drive away amid a shower of rice and good wishes, I felt a deep sense of completion. The man who had fled Chicago in pain and betrayal wasn't the same man standing here now. I had lost much, but gained something perhaps more valuable. The knowledge that broken things, whether gardens or hearts, could be rebuilt with patience, care, and the courage to begin again.